This wasn't about looking cool. It was about being seen the wrong way on purpose. Mid-70s, New York's Lower East Side. Decaying tenements, blackouts, junkies in the doorways. The city was collapsing under debt and abandonment. Out of that pressure came a visual resistance. Torn shirts, taped up jeans, safety pins and skin, not for effect, but for survival. Proto-punk bands like Television and Richard Hell and the Voidoids
His next number is called I Belong to the Blank.
Were crafting aesthetics. They were broadcasting a rupture. Their clothes weren't styled. They were worn through, spit on, bled into, and reassembled. This was not a fashion. It was material evidence of a systematic failure. It was also the beginning of one of the most plagiarized visual codes of rebellion in modern culture. The sound was minimal, direct, and defiant. Bands like the Ramones wore ripped denim and leather because it's what they had. But their stage presence, stripped of pretense, turned that into a defiance. Speed, repetition, aggression, all formed the core. The look followed suit. Threadbare, mismatched, dirt smeared. Richard Hell's shredded shirt and spiked hair were ready-made blueprints. Not by design, but by collapse. Then London saw it. And then London mutated it. 1976, punk lands in Britain, and the visuals explode into provocation. Vivienne Westwood and Malcolm McLaren, operating out of their boutique Sex, weaponized the look. DIY became design. Westwood's bondage pants, inverted crosses, and fascist-evoking imagery weren't just shock tactics. They were class warfare through fabric. The Sex Pistols dressed like a riot. Their clothes spat on empire, class order, and monarchy. But the moment punk became visually codified, it created a paradox. Anti-fashion became the product. And that product, it moved fast. UK punks weren't just dressing wild, they were moving hostile. Spitting, slamming, snaring en masse. The Bill Grundy incident on live television didn't just scandalize the nation, it shifted the battleground.
When he asked, well, what do you do to money? And I said, we fucking spent it.
Well, tell me more about it.
We fucking spent it, didn't we?
I don't know, have you?
Yeah, it's all gone.
Really?
British youth now had an armor, tartan, safety pins, razor cuts, repurposed garbage. You didn't dress punk, you armed up. But as the scene calcified and commodified, something broke off and ran faster, louder, and harder. Hardcore. Early 1980s, Washington, D.C. and Southern California, hardcore punk stripped it all down. Gone were the stylized rips and anarcho-flair. In came buzz cuts, military surplus, and band shirts with block letter warnings. Black Flag.
I'm about to have a nervous breakdown. My head really hurts. If I don't find a way out of here.
Minor Threat. Circle Jerks. Uniforms of Urgency. Doc Martens swapped for combat boots. Art school bondage replaced by army green and duct tape. Straight edge showed up with black X's on hands. Not a trend, a declaration. You knew who was claiming clean living, and you knew who wasn't welcome. This was rejection on both consumerism and spectacle. You couldn't fake hardcore. The pit would call you out. So you want to understand hardcore's visual communication? You don't go to Vogue. You go to the copy machine. Zines like Maximum Rock and Roll, flyers with cut and paste collage aggression, and hand-drawn show posters were the media format. Unrefined, urgent, and disposable. They weren't built to last. They were built to spread. This is where punk's original visual defiance metastasized. No longer bound to denim or leather, but to ink, staples, and the geometry of Xerox rage. Then came the 90s. Grunge didn't steal punk's look. It inherited its decay. Flannel, torn jeans, unwashed hair. It was hardcore's rejection filtered through commercial depression. Pop punk exploded next. Green Day
On holiday!
and The Offspring repackaged the look for MTV. Suddenly, Hot Topic became the mall's pit stop for rebellion cosplay. But here's the catch. The hostility didn't vanish. It just moved. Hardcore kids didn't cry foul. They split lanes. While punk fashion hit Fashion Week runways, the real zones, DIY venues, squat shows, community centers, they kept the ethic alive. D-beat crust punks, power violence outfits, vegan straight-edge collectives, each with their own coded look, each rejecting the spotlight while building an underground visual economy. So now zoom out. High fashion sells $2,000 jackets with anarchy on the back. Luxury brands borrow bondage straps and mohawks for seasonal collections. Punk's anti-aesthetic, once a middle finger to society, has become a marketing toolkit. Designers mine the wreckage of rebellion to sell controlled chaos. But subcultures haven't stopped. They've just adapted. Punk is still alive in patches, in homemade shirts, in basement show uniforms that changed from city to city. In the real measure, I think it's intent. You can't mass produce defiance. You can only mimic it, and hardcore was never built for mimicry. The fashion of anarchy didn't die when it hit the runway, but it did fracture. Now it lives in micro scenes, digital cells, and personal uniforms worn by those who still reject the feed, the algorithm, the pose. Hardcore's visual language never belonged to designers. It belonged to the kids in a basement, printing a shirt at 3 a.m. for a show with no guest list. That's the Hardcore Files. Let's close it.